This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com with a daily wrestling news update for you. John Cena's return to Smackdown only did a zero point 0.5 rating. Not great considering without Cena last week for the first Smackdown with fans, they did a 0.6 rating. And in the weeks prior to that, when they were still at the Thunderdome, it was in the 0.4s, very similar to what Dynamite has been getting in recent weeks. So the 0.5 rating shows you that Cena is not as much of a draw as he was. He's back on the house show loop where he has been increasing attendance in house show ticket sales, from what I understand. So it's good that he's back overall, but I personally would have expected them to do a better rating for SmackDown with Cena than they did the previous week without. As I reported yesterday, Brian Blair's son, Brett Blair, was killed at the age of 29. Steve Kern, who is friends with Brian, leaked that information out on Friday, I believe. According to Dave Meltzer, Blair's son was found murdered at a remote construction site, and authorities are clueless as to what happened. He had some brushes with the law, so you never know what kind of people he was involved with, but it's a sad situation. And I'm very sorry. Brian Blair just lost Paul Orndorff, who was one of his best friends a couple weeks ago, now to lose his son. And he also had back surgery recently, so not a good time for Brian. Teddy Long's Texas wrestling company had advertised Lance Archer and Enzo for an event in Texas last night, and they did not appear. So never good to advertise people that aren't actually going to be at your show. PCW Ultra tickets went on sale today for their October 22nd event in the LA area. The matches from this event are going to air on the Hannibal TV. I am going to be there covering the event, and I'm not at liberty to announce some of the stars that are going to be involved, but obviously there's going to be a lot of MLW stars involved with that event, and some legends from ECW and WCW are also going to be involved. So more information coming on that soon. There's even a rumor that the Blood Hunter might be returning to PCW. Polar family believes WWE is on its way out. I think they're going to keep declining in popularity the way they're going. I just watched what I could stomach of the SmackDown highlights, and it's just too goofy for me. And by the way, I interviewed John Nord yesterday. That interview was very good. There's definitely going to be a part 2 with him. He was the berserker in the WWE. And some people may have found that gimmick goofy, but I liked that gimmick. And it was believable. He played the character well. And he's a big, legitimate ex-pro football player, real-life tough guy. And I mean, there's just not as many. It's all just goofy now, I find. There's very few serious characters out there. Sean, I have not been following the Olympics whatsoever. I hate to say this, but I don't care at all about them. Jake says RIP WWE. Well, I don't think they'll ever be dead and buried because they have so much footage that they'll always be able to get revenue on that footage, but their current product is certainly not very popular at the moment. I don't know, other than my wrestling friends, I don't know anyone of my real non-wrestling friends that watch wrestling or have any interest in wrestling these days beyond what they ask me about what I'm doing with my shoot interviews and stuff. Maverick comments on a horrible situation with Blair's son. David, watch my report from yesterday. His son was found murdered. Jose believes they need to bring Vince Russo back to write for SmackDown. I mean, they have horrible writers these days. Horrible. I don't think Vince Russo would want to even do it, to be honest. And I don't know. I think the Vince Russo magic that he had with Vince in the 90s probably wouldn't be able to duplicate itself in the 2020s. We are like 25 years later now. Jake M. says that Brian Blair had many problems with his sons over the years. Yes, he was no angel, obviously. Ivan wants a Rick Rude widow interview. Maybe. Baseball trade does not like WWE. John has not watched wrestling in almost 2 years. And somebody said the other day, well, why do you do a wrestling channel if you don't like wrestling? Well, I'm a fan of wrestling. I just don't like the current products. And I mean, there are some wrestlers I like today. I never shut up about what a Blood Hunter fan I am. I definitely think Harry Smith is the best technical wrestler in the world. There is some women's wrestling that I don't mind watching, but I could never sit through a full episode of a current wrestling show. Obviously, I think PCW, as I've been saying this for years, has the potential to be like the new ECW. It was one of the hottest companies going before the pandemic basically shut down California. So there is some good stuff and some potential in wrestling. I am bringing back Great North Wrestling. There's going to be lots of new footage coming out from Great North Wrestling in August. So I'm going to try and bring back the stuff that I find interesting in wrestling, because I do believe there's lots of wrestling fans out there still. They just don't like the current product. And as I said yesterday, I do like to see that AEW is actually getting very close to matching Raw and SmackDown ratings in the same week. And I hope that lights a fire under WWE and wakes them up a bit as to how bad their product has become. Pete mentions WWE is not what it used to be. It's unwatchable and corny nowadays. I agree. I used to love WWE, but I don't anymore. I can't even watch it. Now, will I watch it when some of my friends are on there? Yes. Or if something big happens, I'll watch the highlights, but I don't have any interest in like watching. After watching the highlights of SmackDown, which I have to be honest, I skimmed through a lot of it because I still didn't want to sit through the full 3 minutes. I just watched the few little clips I found interesting, and it did not make me want to go and watch the full show or look up anything further from the show. It just looked terrible. Mitch, I'm always working on UFO interviews. It's hard. A lot of these people that I want to talk to are very elusive. Top Shelf Anarchy, the big Valvoski agrees. If that is the real Val Venus, which I think it is, I'll close it at that. Great guy.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click